Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're talking about three massive storylines as we head into NFL Week 13. I think we got some very good football. For some teams, you're trying to see how the playoff race is going to turn out. For some teams, you're trying to see how your draft order is going to look. But I think the three games that we're going to talk about today, the best thing about them, it's one in the 1 o'clock window, it's one in the 4 o'clock window, and it's one in the primetime window. So I want to get straight into this thing. But before we do all that, don't forget to drop a like down on the video. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers and we're almost there. The first game we got on this list in this slate, that's the 49ers versus the Eagles. Now, just looking at the game cast for this one, a lot of people are riding with the 49ers. I think I respect both of these teams. And the biggest storyline that I want to talk about in the angle that we're going to look at this game, who's the best team in the NFC? Now, I think with the Philadelphia Eagles, they make a great case because they've been winning these football games. We look at their roster from top to bottom. But with the San Francisco 49ers, we look outside of that 3-game losing streak. They've been dominating a lot of their competition. So with this, we also have the question of the 1 seed because there's a lot of teams, even the Dallas Cowboys. If Philadelphia loses this game and then Dallas goes in there next week and they win that football game, now things are kind of shaky for San Francisco. If they win this football game, they can vie for the 1 seed. The Detroit Lions still have an outside shot at the 1 seed. So I think there's a lot riding on this game, particularly for the NFC and home field advantage. But as you can see right here, the San Francisco 49ers have a 55.5% chance to win this game. Comment down below who wins this game. Who do you think is the best team in the NFC? Is it one of these two teams? Is it a team that's not playing in this football game? But I think the biggest thing for me, just talking about it from a football perspective, I want to see. Now, one thing with the Philadelphia Eagles, you cannot start this game slow. I'm looking particularly at the last 2 games, and we can see it right here. You have the win against Buffalo, and you have the win against Kansas City. 2 things that we saw in both of those football games, starting off slow, and that starts with Brian Johnson. Offensive coordinator, how are we going to start this football game? Now, we got a lot of identities we can choose from. We can run the football with the best of them. We can lean on a Jason Kelce, a Lane Johnson. We can lean on that, but we can also get in the air attack. We have an A.J. Brown. We have a Devonta Smith. We have a Olamide Zaccheaus. So I think we look at that, and what is the identity going to be against the San Francisco 49ers defense? Steve Wilks came from the box. Now he's on the football field now. Fred Warner playing like the best linebacker in the game because he is the best linebacker in the game. Nick Bosa still on that defense. Arik Armstead still on that defense. So I think we look at some of these things and we have to pay attention to it. What is Brian Johnson going to do? How do you attack a defense like this? Jalen Hurts being clean with the football, understanding that we cannot turn over the football. We cannot start off slow. We have to be crisp and have to execute if we're on the offensive side of the ball. Now, you look at the converse with the San Francisco 49ers. They've been playing basically lights out since that loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. We could see it right here. They have a win over Jacksonville. They have a win over Tampa Bay, and they had a win on Thursday night against Seattle. What they've been doing thus far, and I just talked about Steve Wilks, the transition defensively. They've been clicking on that side of the ball, but offensively, you got guys, and I've been saying this for the longest. I've been saying this dating back to last season. Brandon Ayuk is a #1 receiver, and we're starting to see a little bit of that. George Kittle, although in this offense, sometimes he does get missed a little bit because you have a Deebo Samuel, you have a Christian McCaffrey, but I still think he's one of those top 2 to 3 tight ends in the game of football. So now we look at that. Christian McCaffrey, he's probably going to hit 1,000 yards in this game. Deebo Samuel still out there. Jawan Jennings still out there. So you start to look at some of these weapons and how Kyle Shanahan has been coordinating this offense and calling these plays. I think that they're in a prime position against a defense. Now we look at this right here. We see the win streak for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys, they scored 23 points. The Kansas City Chiefs, they scored 17 points. The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, they looked a little better in that game. They scored 34 points. So what is going to be the mark? I think this is going to be a game. I look at it, I think that for Philadelphia, they want to lean on that pass rush. They've been struggling in the back end a little bit, and I think that some of that is predicated on health. But what we're going to see in this game is, can we be sound in the back end? Because it's going to be a lot of motion. It's going to be a lot of different things. Kyle Shanahan, he's going to take his shot plays. It's going to be Brandon Ayuk down the football field. It's going to be George Kittle down there. But on that side of the ball, when are we going to go man? When are we going to go zone? If we go match, are we going to be sound within our rules and our principles? Because like I said, you go against San Francisco, it's just so many different things you have to look for defensively. But I think that you're going to lean on that pass rush, a Hassan Reddick, a Josh Sweat, those types of guys, having a Jalen Carter, a Jordan Davis along the interior. And for San Francisco, are they going to be able to run the football? I don't want to get into a situation where it just has to be all Brock Purdy. I don't want to get into a situation where Brock Purdy has to go for 300 plus yards to win this football game, because I think that's playing a little bit into the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. The more that you have to pass the football and you get in a situation like that, they can let that pass rush go hunt. Now, I think even for San Francisco, they got a pass rush that can go hunt. So we're looking at two things for this. I think the biggest thing is who starts off the football game hot. Nobody can afford to start off this football game slow, because we're looking at two very good teams. Like I said, I respect these two teams. I want to know who's going to win this one. My eyes are going to be glued to this one. I think that when you look at a 55% chance to win for San Francisco against a 44% chance for Philadelphia, I mean, if we talk about how clean San Francisco has been looking since their bye week, I think it is fair to have a little bet. Now, we look at the betting odds, they're 3-point favorites, and Philadelphia is home. So you're a 3-point underdog in your home stadium. I think it's pretty fair. If I had to say who would win this game, it's going to be a close one. I really like both of these teams. I think this is the cream of the crop in the NFC, but I'd probably have to go with San Francisco. I think when both teams are at their best, San Francisco is just tough to deal with. But then when Philadelphia is playing at their best, you look at an A.J. Brown who's playing football the way he is, a Devonta Smith who's been coming on in recent weeks, a DeAndre Swift in the backfield who's a guy who probably has a chance to take over this game. I think for Philadelphia, you want to get that run game going. Get Jalen Hurts comfortable within the game, RPOs, read option, those types of things. Try to beat down and out physical this San Francisco 49ers defense. This is going to be a good game to watch, so I started off with this one. Now, getting into the next game, though, that's the Denver Broncos versus the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 3-point favorites as a home team versus the Denver Broncos. I want to know what we think about this one, but the biggest storyline for this game that I want to talk about is C.J. Stroud's dominance versus the Denver Broncos win streak. Now, one has to stop today. Now, what we've seen last week, even in a loss, C.J. Stroud having a good game against Jacksonville. But I think for the way the Denver Broncos have been winning, for the way they've been playing, if they win a football game like this, they're going to get C.J. Stroud off of his pivot. They're going to get him uncomfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing you have to do. And shout out for Vance Joseph. Just being able to turn that around. Having 70 points scored on you early in the season. A lot of people were saying he's not the guy for the job at the defensive coordinator position. And to turn that around and have a defense playing sound, being on this win streak, I think that's huge. And we have to give our hats off to that. But when we look at this game now, the Houston Texans have a 54.5% chance to win. I think that is two good football teams. And what we're going to see is, from a football standpoint, how is C.J. Stroud going to attack this secondary? I think this will be a C.J. Stroud game. And looking at how the Denver Broncos have won in their last 5, they beat Cleveland 29-12. They beat Minnesota 21-20. And I think outside of the Minnesota game, we've been seeing the team who's been running the football, taking the ball out of Russ's hands a little bit, saying, okay, we got you. We got you some help. We don't have to lean on you. We're going to play a little bit of defense to help you. So this is what we want to see in a football game like this. But when you go against an explosive offense in the Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud, with Nico Collins, and I think Tank Dell, he's questionable, and also Noah Brown, he's questionable. Dalton Schultz will be out. So this is another one of those games. But I think C.J. Stroud has stepped up to the table with health concerns already, because he's had some offensive linemen switching in and out of the lineups. He's had some receivers who's been out. So I think this is just another game. Even if he doesn't have all of his weapons, his full set, he's still going to have a productive game. But for Sean Payton, the question is, if the Houston Texans come out there and a Nico Collins, he gets going, if a C.J. Stroud, he gets hot, do we get into a situation where we have to let Russ cook? I think that's what the Houston Texans are going to try to do. Like I said, in the Minnesota game, we saw some flashes of that old-time Russ. We saw the pass in the back of the corner of the end zone against the Minnesota Vikings. But can he do that on a consistent level and play from behind? That's the biggest thing you're going to want to see in this game. But I think it's two very good teams. Two teams who are playing for a playoff race. We look at the Houston Texans. If they want to have a chance in the AFC South, they're going to have to win this game. It's really a must. When we look at how the Jacksonville Jaguars are winning, you split with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is a game that's really a must win when we talk about having a chance at winning the South and getting into that playoff race. Same thing for the Denver Broncos. We look at the AFC West. I mean, it's not as competitive. The Chargers aren't winning as many games. The Las Vegas Raiders aren't winning as many games, but still trying to get into the playoffs behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is one where both teams must win it, and it's going to be a very good game. Now, I want to get into my last game that I have, and this is our primetime game. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers. Another good game. And the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-point favorites in this one. Green Bay Packers 6-point underdogs. Now, the Green Bay Packers are the home team. And of course, why is this a question? And I think when we look at these last 5 games, we start to see it a little bit. Now, the Chiefs, the biggest thing that I've seen with them. Now, even with the Las Vegas Raiders game, the way the Raiders started out that football game, running the football, being physical, letting the Josh Jacobs cook, and then you get away from that a little bit. Kansas City, they go and score 28 unanswered. I think that for them, it's what version of the offense are we going to get today? What we saw against Philadelphia, was that an anomaly? What we saw against Las Vegas, what we saw against Miami a little bit, is that what we can expect? What we saw against the Denver Broncos a couple weeks ago, is that an anomaly? Can a guy like Rashee Rice keep up the productivity like he had in the last game, eclipsing 100 yards? I think we can expect Travis Kelce to come along to the party. Isaiah Pacheco catching the football out of the backfield. Can the run game get going? I don't think they've been able to run the football like they did at times last year, but Isaiah Pacheco still being a very good running back. That's the type of thing that you have to try to get going and see, can we fix some of these holes we've had in the offense as we go into the playoffs? I think that you just have to trust Mahomes and the defense. Like I said, this is the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has played with since he's been a Kansas City Chief. We look at these last couple of games, the Las Vegas Raiders, they scored 17. The Philadelphia Eagles, they scored 21. The Miami Dolphins, they scored 14. The Denver Broncos scored 24, but the Los Angeles Chargers scored 17. So they're not allowing a lot of points. And all it's going to take is Mahomes to get a couple shots, hit an MVS down the football field. Can you get a Sky Moore involved? Like I said, a Rashee Rice, can he come back to the party? Those are the types of things. But for the Green Bay Packers, can Jordan Love continue to do it? I think what we've seen now, we had the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we can see it right here in the last 5. But I think you go and you win against the LA Chargers. You win that game on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions, a very good team themselves. So now we start to question a little bit. Is Jordan Love getting more into the flow? And like I said, what we're going to see with Jordan Love, I think this is a guy who a lot of people said, okay, you sat behind a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a bona fide Hall of Famer. You should come in here and you should be a quarterback. It shouldn't be that much of a drop-off or that much of a maturation period because you've seen the best of the best. You've been in the quarterback meetings. You've been in the film room with one of the best guys to ever do it, but I don't think it's that easy. I think to have the full season when you're truly the guy, there's no Aaron Rodgers saying, okay, still be ready. Still have your hand warmers ready. Still be throwing around out there. This is, okay, we're starting a football game. It's nobody but you, Jordan Love. So I think when we have that, we are seeing some things that are consistent with a rookie's performance. I think we start and we have the up and down performances to start the season. Like I said, we have the turnover-worthy plays, but the way he's been playing lately, we talk about accuracy. And can he remain consistent with that accuracy? I think his decision-making is something that I've liked really. Even with the ups and downs, I think he's made good decisions for the most part, but the accuracy has been spotty. So now we come into a situation like this, we're going to have to see it all. Pocket presence, accuracy, because you're going against a defense, a Chris Jones, a George Karlaftis. They're going to try to get after it. And I think that for them, the running game hasn't been able to come along. We see it right here. Their leading rusher, A.J. Dillon, 131 carries, 448 yards. And we see conversely, Isaiah Pacheco on 158 carries, 669 yards. So that's a lot more yards on just a couple more carries. When we talk about a storyline, it's one of those trap games for the Kansas City Chiefs. When we talk about the 1 seed, I think they still do have a shot at it. We're looking at the Baltimore Ravens. I think actually if we can look at the standings right here. So, yeah, when we're looking at the race for the 1 seed in the AFC, we got the Miami Dolphins, we got the Baltimore Ravens, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think teams who probably all have a shot at winning this thing, but we're going to have to see, of course. The Baltimore Ravens, I'm sure, are on a bye week. So this is just an important game. For the Kansas City Chiefs, getting the offensive flow, remaining consistent. I know what the defense is going to bring me, but for Jordan Love, the question really remains simple. Can you do what you did on Thanksgiving against the top 5 defense in the Kansas City Chiefs? Can you consistently continue that pace that we've seen? Like I said, the accuracy, the pocket presence, the decision-making. Can you continue to get those weapons involved? I'm challenging a guy like Christian Watson. The guy that we saw on Thanksgiving, that's not the guy we saw all season. Even with Matt LaFleur, he came out there hungry. Like I said, it felt like he saw a lot of the things that the Baltimore Ravens did against the Detroit Lions, and it really was looking like a copy and paste game plan. We talk about the motion. We talk about getting those guys involved, running some of those RPOs. And I think now coming into it, defensively, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, some of those guys, Devontae Wyatt, he's going to be back into the lineup. He was on concussion protocol in that last game, but Kenny Clark. I think that when we look at the secondary, I see Eric Stokes. He's set to return off IR, but he's probably not going to play in this game. Darnell Savage, there's probably a 40 to 60% chance he plays in this game. Jair Alexander, Rudy Ford, Devondre Campbell, those guys are questionable on the defense. But can you continue to do what you're doing? That's going to do it for today. Those are my three massive storylines as we head into NFL Week 13. There's a lot of great football left. There's going to be a lot of takeaways that I come back with talking about it after we see the games tomorrow. Like I said, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment your thoughts. With that being said, that's going to do it for today's show. And now, we